Hi, everybody. It's Mike Rodriguez, and I have an important message for you. Recently, I had the opportunity to watch a movie called Before the Wrath. This is a powerful Christian movie. And it's not powerful just because it's Christian, it's powerful because of the message in the movie. And it had such an impact on me that I had to reach out to Kevin Sorbo, who narrated the movie. And Kevin and I just recently conducted an interview. You're about to watch it. And after this interview, I'm going to challenge you to reach out and watch this movie as well. Right now, there's a lot of people that are searching for hope. And this movie can give you the opportunity to find that hope, to reignite your faith, or if you don't have faith, to be able to explore what that means to you. Kevin received international stardom when he booked the lead role in Hercules, the television series that was aired from 1993 to 1999. Hercules was the most watched TV show in the world, airing in 176 countries. He was also the lead role as Captain Dylan Hunt in Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda. Gene Roddenberry created Andromeda after the original Star Trek series. Kevin's been in other movies like Walking Tall, Cole the Conqueror, The Payback, Avenging Angel, and Meet the Spartans. And he's been in a bunch of different Christian movies. They're all very profound. But this one is special to me, and I know it's going to be special for you as well. Enjoy this interview. So today I have the privilege of talking with Mr. Kevin Sorbo. For those of you, I'm sure you know who Kevin is. Kevin's been in films such as Hercules and God's Not Dead. And I'm actually a big fan of his. The reason we're talking today, Kevin, a couple weeks ago, I had the privilege of watching your movie Before the Wrath. Now, there's a lot of people that are watching movies right now because there's not a lot of other things to do. But on this occasion, I had both of my younger daughters with me, one's 10 and one's 12. And I have to tell you, when I got done, I sat there and I looked at my daughter and she looks over to me and we were just blown away. And I thought, man, this is an opportunity for us to really get this message out around the world. And so what a better place to go than to the man who narrated this. And by the way, you did a fantastic job with going over this. So one of the core things I want to talk to you about today is the world is a scary place right now. There's a lot of people that are afraid. There are many people that are losing hope. And this movie is perfect timing. So what is the importance about this message Before the Wrath that it brings to the world today?
Well, before I jump into that, I mean, I'm just was blessed. It's not really my movie. It's Brent Miller's movie. He did an amazing job with it, he and his team. I was just blessed that they came to me and said, "Well, you want to narrate this?" And that's how I got on board. So I'm just blessed and honored to be part of it. It's just an amazing message. It's a message of hope. It's a message of faith. It's a message of love, a message of redemption, things that we need all the time, but now more than ever with what's going on, with everything that's going on out there, with not only COVID, but also with the rioting and the destruction of our country and the dismantling of our history. I mean, it's crazyville out there right now. And this is a very, I've always said, these people out there causing all this destruction in their homes and businesses and destroying people's businesses, public property, private property. If these people had biblical principles in their lives, would they be doing what they're doing out there? And there's no way they would be. And Martin Luther King is turning over his grave. What's going on out there? And it's horrific what happened to this man in Minneapolis. That's my home state, by the way. I don't think anybody disagrees with the ridiculousness of what that officer did to that guy. It's sad. It's pathetic. It makes me angry just like anybody else. But to see what's going on with that right now compared to how it should have been handled, I think, and how we should have reacted to this, it's mind-boggling. And it goes beyond the death of that guy. This shows how lost people are, how people are filled with so much anger and hate, and I believe self-loathing. These are people who don't like their lives. They don't like what's going on. I think the mixture of COVID and 3 months of quarantining everybody, I think it just was, the final straw for a lot of these people. And Before the Wrath, to me, is we're looking at the wrath right now. And it's a wonderful educational tool to guide people of all faiths and all non-faiths to take a look at, where this world is probably going to be heading. We just don't know when and where, of course, but I think it's worthwhile for people to get together because it's a great place for people to talk and educate and learn about not only the Bible, but just about humanity as a whole.
And that's a perfect summary, and it's really great. There's so many different elements you captured there about this lost world, and that's why this movie is so timely. And I know I say your movie, but the whole time you're narrating it to me, and so just your deliverables in there were just fantastic. But it's the message, and you're right. So what I often say is I look at the world, I call it the why factor, and so basically when people get to a certain point, like you said, I'm lost, right? Or we're all lost. So if you don't know the Lord. And so in a time like this, people latch onto something. And so you're either going to go to this way and grasp onto something that gives you some sort of sense of security, even though it's reckless, or I can find a sense of peace. And that element right in the middle is the timely message that before the wrath brings, is that destruction is filling a gap. There's something missing inside of individuals. And our job, and this is what this movie does, is it's able to bring a sense of peace through a knowledge base of facts. So I'm a theologian. So I actually study the Bible, and I'm looking at this whole breakthrough of the content you put together. And I thought, the world's got to hear this, man. Yeah. This is the peace for Christians. You're talking about a guy who studies this stuff, but when we're looking at this, and you as an actor with your experience and in this role, you bring a lot of depth to this movie. What was the key part that stood out to you when Brent came to you and said, Kevin, I want you to be a part of this? What stood out to you about this movie?
Well, it's interesting. It's about 10 years ago where I really did my first, I call faith-based movie. I hate calling them faith-based movies because I think all movies are faith-based. Every movie has an agenda. Every movie has a message. Hollywood wants to put out their agenda, their ideology. If you're an atheist, that's a really strong faith. It really is. To believe in absolutely nothing. They probably have more faith than a lot of Christians do. Right. So to me, it was, I did a movie called What If? And I love What If. It was my buddy Dallas Jenkins. He directed it. His father's Jerry Jenkins, wrote the Left Behind novels. Dallas came to me with the script, and I said, wow, who's playing Pastor Ben in this? And he goes, well, I don't know. It's pretty low budget. And I said, well, I want to play the role. He goes, Kevin, I can't afford you. I mean, really, the budget is so low. I said, I don't care what I get paid. I want to do this role. And that really opened up the door. I've always been a Christian, but that really opened the door for me to want to do more movies with a more positive message. And it's the same writers that did What If, did God's Not Dead. The most recent movie, Unplanned, about abortion, with same writers. They directed that one as well. And that just sort of opened up things for me to want to do more and more of these, like Soul Surfer and Abel's Field, and one movie I directed called Let There Be Light. I'm hoping people write all this down so they should see these movies. So when Brent came to me with this, it was hugely educational for me because I didn't have any sort of tie-in when, with the whole wedding that goes on in the movie. And the waiting for the word from the Father to say, okay, now you can get married. It's like, like Jesus is going to come back like a thief in the night, right? We don't know if it's going to be next week or 500 years from now. But it was fascinating to me that they not only had these scholars, these people in current day, and then they mixed it with actors portraying 2,000 years ago. And I love the mix and the ebb and flow of it all. I thought it was intriguing. It was interesting. It keeps your attention. And this is something that really needs to get out. Pastors need to get this out. We need to get this out to everybody right now. It's so difficult to do that, not let alone movie theaters being closed down now. It's so difficult for these small independent documentaries and films that I do to get an audience if you don't have $100 million behind promoting it like they do for Avengers and the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie, because Hollywood has control, right? Politics is downstream culture. Who runs the culture? Hollywood, mainstream media, television. That's who run the culture. And they, trust me, they have their agenda and people see that. I travel a lot, and through airports and hotel lobbies, restaurants. I used to get stopped all the time because of Hercules or Andromeda. I get stopped 80% of the time now for Soul Surfer, God's Not Dead, What If, Let There Be Light. That's what people stop me for. And they say, please make more movies like this. Well, then I say, well, please support them. Tell your community, tell your church. If you don't get behind these movies, theater owners don't care what movies in the theater. They really don't. They just want to sell popcorn and junior mints. So if you fill up a movie theater with these type of movies, these good movies, people, the theaters will keep putting them in there. So if you do not support them, trust me, they'll be out after 3 days. And that happens a lot to independent movies because they don't have the press behind them, that PR machine that Hollywood does for their big blockbusters.
Yeah, and what you're saying is so true. And for anybody who's watching this, Kevin brings up a major point, is that there's a big difference between entertainment and advancing the kingdom. And I know a lot of people, one of the big premises that I always say is this is not about religion. What this is about is your commitment. And this is what we're doing today, is to really help to get this message out. And when we look at the core message of the movie, by the way, if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it right after this. Is the content, number one, in the movies true? Now, I've watched a lot of we call them Christian movies. And the key is there's always a disclaimer that says there's some sort of creative control that's been factored in, or the word that I'm looking for, creative design or liberty. And there's some modifications. But as I'm going through this movie, as I was mentioned, it's biblically validated. It's theologically sound, but it gives major tiebacks to Jesus. So as I'm watching this, I mean, you talk about message, like you say, it talks about the tieback to the Galileans, the Gospels. It's all outlined there in Matthew, a couple of different verses within Luke, but it talks about Jesus coming back. So before this movie, because like me, I study the Bible, and I didn't put those two together. And so were you aware of that whole correlation of the Galileans? And if you don't know what we're talking about, that's good, because you're going to watch it and then bring it together. But were you aware of that whole correlation?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I thought this was just as educational for me as it will be for people that will be watching it hopefully soon.
Yeah.
I want to give a quick plug for it because it actually opened #1 documentary on Amazon for, I think, the first 2 weeks. So there is a hunger for things like this out there. I love doing look, I've got a couple other documentaries coming out. There's one I just did with John Lennox. If you don't know what John Lennox is, he's a retired Oxford math professor, but he's an apologist. He's debated Dickens and Hitchens and Dawkins and all these atheists out there. We spent 2 weeks in Israel and 3 weeks in Oxford doing his life. The title's going to change now. We don't know what it's going to be now. It won't be out till next year. So you and I will set up a talk to talk about that one as well. But I love doing things like that show fact,
Yes.
to fight through the fiction, because a lot of people that don't want to believe in God, don't believe in Jesus, they hate it if you prove the Bible to be true. I did another documentary there narrated. It's called Exodus, Patterns of Evidence. So if you haven't seen that one, please check that out.
Okay.
That was 10 years of study, not by me, but 10 years of study by a fellow Minnesota friend of mine that Tim Mahoney, he went in and spent 10 years through archaeological digs to prove that the Exodus happened, and he does. And I love documentaries. I love documentaries that show those types of reality, because we do have to fight through, like I said, it blows my mind how we protect some religions, but if you're a Christian, it's okay to attack. It's okay to make fun of. It's okay to dismantle. They want to tear down statues of Jesus now. They want to take down, Yale students who want to take down anything that has God on, Ivy League schools. Newsflash, all those schools started under Judeo-Christian values, just like our Constitution and our founding fathers, okay? And no country is perfect. I don't hate to going off topic here now, but it drives me nuts that we're trying to erase our history. Like America is the only country that's ever had bad history. Every country has good and bad history. You can't erase that. If you erase it, then you're bound to, have that sort of thing happen again. But these type of movies, these type of documentaries are so instrumental to teaching and pushing forward a positive narrative instead of a negative one. But you got to look at it with open eyes, not look at it with just all this hatred that's going on right now. There's so much satanic evil in the world right now, and it's sad to see that happening, and sad to see the anger out there. But it comes down to people who I know don't even like themselves. They really don't. These are people that need help, and they need love, and they need guidance more than anything else.
And that's true. And one of the things that I often say is if you're looking through the world through a corrupt lens, everything's going to look corrupt to you. And so this is why when we look at the core message of this, and you mentioned the word lost, people lost. I remember in my life when I was lost, when I didn't know Christ, and I was working to try to get through life on my own. I'm sure you were there. Every Christian that I know was there before. And when you find this sense of peace in Christ, you realize that there's no reason to engage in destruction. In fact, that's the whole miracle in Jesus Christ, is that he gives us the opportunity to erase our sins so we don't have to focus on the past. This is not my saying, but I heard somebody say once, if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. And this is the loss that I see in the world. And so for guys like us to come together and say, here's an opportunity for you to look at some truth. So when you get to that intersection in your life and you're tempted to go in another direction, we're going to challenge you based on facts. And that's what I love about this movie, is these biblical truths that are in there. And so when we get at, so let's go back to Before the Wrath for a minute. It unveils new findings that confirm the truth of Christ's second coming. There was something that was said in the movie, and it's talking about sharing the gospel, how we talk about, we're sinners. We need to seek forgiveness of our sins. God sent his son Jesus, who died on the cross. 3 days later, he rose. And most of us share that when we're sharing the gospel. But there's a missing component. And pastors, like you said, they're not talking about this. And it's important. Kevin, Jesus is coming back. And you say that to people and they kind of freak out for a minute. But it's right there. And that's the complete story of the gospel. So do you believe that most people are aware of that truth that this movie shares, that Jesus is in fact coming back?
No. It's sadly, no. There's, we have moved further and further away from the Bible. It started decades and decades and decades ago. But 1964 is when we removed the Bible from the classrooms. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's like you don't have to be a believer to look at sort of some of the rules in the Bibles, because our laws are based on that. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not kill. You brought up something a little bit earlier talking about the truth. Well, here's the thing. People don't want to hear the truth. That's a weird thing to me. They can't, it's the old Jack Nicholson movie, right? You can't handle the truth. And it's so sad that that's what we see going on right now. And people would rather live in fantasy. Like I tell my kids, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. Just because you see it in the news, fake news is a real thing. And it's fake news on both sides of the political aisle. I'm not praising one side and going after another. We have leaders in this country who aren't leaders at all. And we need to change things. To have the things that are going on in our cities right now and having people do all this lawlessness and not doing anything about it, it's mind-blowing to me. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. And here we're just seeing the country pulling apart. Look, I've got atheist friends. I've agnostic friends. I've met people who, I do these appearances, signing my book signings, or, appearances I make. And people come up to me and say, yeah, I know you're one of those Christian guys. They sort of get in your face about it. And they say, you guys all think you're so perfect. There are Christians out there that think they're holier than thou. I know there are. Okay, I've met them. And that's why I think, and I understand why some people have such a turnoff for it, whether it's a faith-based movie or whatever it may be. The reality is, we as Christians are supposed to be the most forgiving people out there. A lot of times we're the least forgiving. And we've got to learn to be more forgiving and more outreaching and more positive and more supportive of people and what's going on in their lives, and instead of being in our own little bubble too, because everybody's got their own little bubble. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got problems. I am not perfect by any means. And I've never said that I am. Trust me, I got plenty of flaws I got to work on day in and day out. And I pray every day for forgiveness in it, and I fall back in another pothole again. But it's called life. And it can be a battle, but God never promised life was going to be easy, right?
That's right.
When you have free will, there's a lot of doors you can possibly go through. Not all of them are good doors to follow or roads to follow. But I think overall, we need to spend more time and have more patience, and to get the message out there in a kinder, gentler way, I guess. But I really starts with pastors and their congregation. I've had pastors stop me and say, look, I have a small congregation. I don't care what the size of your congregation is. We all need to support each other. We all need to sit there and work with each other. Because I've seen the egos of churches work against other churches as well. Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen where you have something going on at a church that you're able to use their facility because maybe it's bigger, but they did nothing to promote the event because, well, it's not our event. And I go, yes, but it's God's event. And why are we not supporting each other with that?
That's right,
so there's egos everywhere. And we got to work on that. And you see what's happening in America right now, and it's not a good path we're going down right now. We're at a tipping point. We better make the right decisions down the road here.
Yeah, that's it, brother. And that's why we wanted this opportunity to really talk to you, because it is about the message. And I know I've said that probably 4 times, but
Well, sure.
for those, yeah, for those that are listening to this and listen to what Kevin's saying, is that all of this starts with us, is that we have to empty ourselves. I gave a sermon a couple of weeks ago about, I was leaving lunch and I walked outside and there appeared, it looked like a Lamborghini. And I walked up. So I'm a big car aficionado. To me, it's art. They're beautiful, right? And I
Yeah,
walk
sure.
up and this guy's inside of the car. And as I walked around the car. I got to the side. He said, "You like it?" I said, "Yeah, it's beautiful. What do you do for a living?" And he said, "I'm in the dry cleaning business." I said, "Oh, you own a couple of strains of dry cleaners?" He says, "No, I work at one." And I kind of looked, and because that's a pretty expensive car. And he said, he leans down and says, "It's a kit car." And he starts the engine, and it sounded, it wasn't the Lamborghini. Oh, it was more of a and the example that I give there is, I thought, it's kind of funny, right? Here's a guy who invested money into building the exterior, but the interior was left hollow. He didn't change it. And the reason that story is important is this is what happens to a lot of us as Christians is, we go to church or we read our Bible or we let the world know one thing and we come across judgmental. And so you have somebody else who's lost saying, look, I'm in this chaotic world. I'm going to go for the path of least resistance. We should be the ones that are letting Christ's light shine through us in the ultimate of love and humanity so people can say, what do you have going on? I'm terrified. And that's where we should be, is letting Christ abide in us so people want to follow and ask, what is going on in your life? So we can then share the gospel with them. And so going back to the gospel and looking at Jesus' second coming, because like I said, this movie afterwards, my 12-year-old daughter, Leia, looked at me and I looked over at her, and we're going back to the second coming. And in the movie, they talk about from Jesus, I'm going to quote, from his promise made through wine at the Last Supper to why the world cannot know the day of his return. That's powerful, right? So this is the message that really stood out to me. And I've been sharing this with as many people as I can. There's a lot of seminary students, business people, a lot of different folks from all over the world who are going to be watching this. But here's the question I've been challenging people that I've taken from this is, we should not be asking when is Jesus coming back? We should be asking, why is he coming back, as the movie, and tell these individuals that are listening why we need to shift in that to the new question of why he's coming back.
Well, it's coming back because it's those right, those Left Behind movies. By the way, I'm doing and directing and starring in the next Left Behind movie, just so you know.
Awesome, very good, yeah.
It's an interesting, it's a very good script. It's from the same guys that did the other ones before. I'm taking over the Nick Cage role that he did in the previous one, and it's interesting when when the people are left behind. My character, my teenage daughter, my wife is gone. My son is now gone. So I work my way to the church my wife used to be at, and I sit there. And I'm slowly starting to get it now, realize, okay, there's something more powerful out there than just myself. And out from the front of the church walks the pastor. Pastor wasn't saved. Pastor was left behind. And there are pastors out there like that.
Yes.
It's a very interesting conversation with him where he said, I lost the faith a long time ago. I was just going through the motions, going through the statements, and going through just whatever the sermons came to my mind. I would just say whatever I wanted to say, and hopefully they wanted to be what people wanted to hear, but I never believed the words I was saying. It's an interesting conversation and within the script. And we have a lot like that. I mean, everybody, like I said, everybody's got their own thing going on, and when everything goes wrong in their life, who do they blame? They blame their parents. They blame God. They blame society, government, people. It's never their own fault. The problem is you got to look in the mirror. That's where the problem is. And if you don't start with yourself, these people don't like people who don't like themselves. People don't love themselves, and and that is never a good thing, because that's just going to bring upon the loneliness, the hate, the anger, the frustration, the disappointment. Since this COVID thing happened, suicides are through the roof. I'm hearing over 100 a day now. This is unbelievable. And people are losing their jobs. People have lost their businesses. I don't have the answers for what's going on with COVID. I just think hiding from it isn't the answer in my book. I'm not saying confront it, but we can't sit there and it's crazy what's going on right now. What it's created in terms of all the hate that's going out there. I get tired of watching the news right now because I don't want to believe half of that what they're saying, because it's just everything's negative, 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 and that wears you down. And to me, to find a place of light, a find a hope is with God and with prayer. Prayer is a powerful thing. You don't have to. I tell people, I said, find a place to be grateful. You may not have any faith whatsoever, but I do a thing called a grateful prayer. Be grateful that you still have a family. Be grateful maybe you still have a job. Be grateful you have a pillow. Be grateful you have water to drink. But find a place to be grateful. I think there's miracles every day, but we've gotten so desensitized that we just don't pay attention to it. Every miracle doesn't have to be walking on water, for crying out loud, or raising someone from the dead. I mean, how many times do you hear a story about somebody who had cancer or whatever, and the doctor said, it's got a week, there's no way. And then 20 years later, the guy's still alive. Well, I'm sorry, that's a miracle. Okay? And doctors go, I can't explain it. So movies like this, documentaries like this, will not only reaffirm your faith, but for those without a belief, that don't have any faith in a God of any kind, look at this with an open mind and learn from it. Just learn from it. Just listen to it instead of just being negative. Because if you go with a negative heart and a hardened heart, you're not going to want to watch it anyway. So just take the time to do it. You've got the time now, so take the time to do it and check out Before the Wrath.
That's a fantastic piece. And all of us just need to slow down and really, what are we focusing on? Are we focusing on the wrong things? Because I often say, you're always going to find what you're looking for, is what I often say. And a lot of people don't know what they're looking for. And that's why when you go back to the truths found. So you have, like Kevin says, you have time, invest time right after this to dedicate, make a commitment that this evening, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to get my popcorn or my favorite snack with my family. And I want you to make a commitment now. Not I'm going to try. Try means you're not going to commit, but make a commitment. I'm going to sit down with my family. Do it as a family. That's what I did. And I have to tell you, my 10 and 12-year-olds were in awe. So, but the core of the message is this: Christ is coming back, and we need to be prepared. It's not something for us to be afraid of. In fact, it's something for us to rejoice. And if you don't know Christ, I don't expect you to understand that. But here's what I'm going to tell you, that I'm here to help. And in this message, through this movie, what Kevin is saying, he's investing his time, because this message of Jesus and his second coming is powerful. And you owe it to yourself. You're investing time to explore the world, explore eternity through Jesus Christ. So Kevin, I want to be respectful of your time. How can our listeners help to get the powerful, true message in this movie out to others around the world?
Well, go to beforethewrath.com. Beforethewrath.com. It's got all the information. It's got a trailer. It's got how you can pick up the DVD, the Blu-ray, or watch it, streaming. There's all kinds of ways to make this happen. And make it a family, make it a friend, make it a neighborhood event. Get together. It's something just great to get together after you watch it, just to talk about it. Talk about the ideas behind it. Talk about the scholastics behind it. Talk about the biblical values behind it. It's just a great place to go and have time with your family. And I'll say definitely make popcorn. And I'll say social distance from your refrigerator. This is the time more than anything now. You should be out biking and walking and hiking and running. Look at me. I'm dressed in my gym clothes. Right from here, I got a 20-mile bike ride I'm going to do right after this. So to me, it's a healthy mind, a healthy body, make for a healthy soul. So get out there and exercise. This is the Hercules telling you.
Yeah, that's Hercules, straight from the words of Hercules, giving you the advice, right? And popcorn, if you're a low carb, go to something else. But
if you work out every day, you can eat crap like that every once.
That's right. There's got to be a counterbalance trade-off.
Right.
For the rest of us, what I want to leave you with is there is indeed hope in the world. And thank you, Kevin Sorbo, for men like you who, through trials and tribulations, you're doing what God has called us to do, to be a light in this world. And I personally want to thank you for that. I thank you for your time today. I thank you for continuing to invest in these movies that promote the kingdom. If you have questions about Jesus Christ or your faith, that's fine. And I want you to know we're here to help. You can go to our ministry. We just started this summer called greaterpurposeministries.org. We're a Christian faith-based ministry that works with people around the world. And outside of that, Mr. Sorbo, go ahead, Kevin.
One more thing. You brought up light. So you got to check out my last movie, Let There Be Light, okay? First thing God says in the Bible, Let There Be Light is also streaming on Amazon. So check out Let There Be Light. You can do that tomorrow night. You can do Before the Wrath tonight. And check out that movie. It was in theaters for 4 months. It's a very good, wonderful movie. And have a box of tissue nearby.
Yes. which is pretty standard with your movies. And then one last thing, you have a new movie coming out, correct?
I do. Miracle in East Texas. It's a true story set in 1930. I directed that one as well. It was supposed to be in theaters this month, but obviously there's no movie theaters open. So we don't know when we're going to get out there. We're actually talking, we're talking right now to people that do the drive-in movie theaters, because we still have over 300 drive-in movie theaters across the country. And they just did a big thing with Garth Brooks, I guess, last weekend. So we're hoping to get it out there sooner than later. It's a wonderful family movie based on a true story, inspired by a true story. I'm in it along with John Ratzenberger, Lou Gossett Jr., Tyler Main. My wife's in it. It's a wonderful, wonderful romantic comedy / faith-based movie. You'll love it. And it's got, it's good for people of all ages and all faiths and all non-faiths, okay? It's a good family movie.
And to everybody listening to this, thank you again, Kevin Sorbo, for investing your time to be sharing some truths. And thank you for all the work that you do. And for the rest of you, I'm going to challenge you to stop focusing on fear, that there is another option, that there is hope in this world, and there's more beyond this world. All you have to do is change what you look at and ultimately get a change in your heart. We love you, we have faith in you, and we believe you. Outside of that, go forth and make your lives exceptional. Thank you.